Okay, so Plarium has done it. They have come out with a permanent mythical champion fusion that's going to be added here to the fusion tab, and these are usually a net positive good thing being done for the game. Back in the day, one of the coolest things they did was add this rosin scarhide fusion. Back when they added this, like towards the end of 2019 or 2020, rosin was an amazing defense, tanky, progression type defense break champion, turn meter suppressor. He was just an awesome utility champion for early game accounts to add. So when they added him to the permanent fusion, it was a huge dub for Plarium. Well, now they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to be adding a mythical champion. So I want to go over everything involved with this and give you my thoughts on this mythical in general. Let's get into it.
And a massive shout out to Eternal Evolution for sponsoring today's video. Now, Eternal Evolution is a new mobile idle RPG with strategy and card elements that can be played anytime, anywhere without energy requirements. You can collect and upgrade heroes, build awesome teams, and do epic battles in a variety of game modes. Now, I'll provide all the links you need down below to get started completely free of charge on Eternal Evolution. And one of my favorite things is the fantasy sci-fi art style, but I also really love the DPS meters that you get while playing, making the gameplay a lot more intuitive than most games out there on the market. But what I'm most excited about is the collaboration events with Ghost in the Shell SAC 2045, which includes collaboration heroes, time-limited events, and massive rewards. Featuring new player events where players who start on the newest server and participate in the Grand Ceremony event will receive a guaranteed free SSS hero Ravana, as well as lots of resources. So with all sorts of different PvE and PvP modes, such as the regular arena, the galactic arena, the summit arena, and hell arena, Eternal Evolution has you covered. Not to mention the AFK rewards, auto battling, skipping battles, and a very strategic gameplay. You'll never run out of new ways to enjoy your time in Eternal Evolution. So I really appreciate Eternal Evolution for giving me the opportunity to showcase their game here on my channel, and everything you need to try it out for free will be down below. Simply use my promo code SAC2045 to kickstart your adventure. Now, let's get back to the video.
Okay, so first of all, it's going to be a little bit of a bummer because a lot of us have probably had these champions at some point, but because of the way storage works in game, sometimes you get rid of extra copies of champions that you don't need. So if you're curious if you've summoned a champion and then crunched them, you can go look in your index on if the avatar is grayed out or not. So right here you can see Lockwane is going to be a Sylvan Watcher. So I would go back and go into the Sylvan Watcher faction, and then I would look under the epics here for Lockwane, which is right here, and you can see that it is grayed out. So I haven't summoned this epic and then wasted it yet, but there are definitely going to be some rares that someone like me who's been playing for 4 years would have had at one point, but then I crunched and I'm not going to have a copy of it. If you want to see if you have a copy of the champion lying around, just click on it as part of the fusion and then it will load up your different options. So for this void rare, I would have a lot of options to fuse up into this epic and then fuse into the mythical champion. So before you do a big food sacrificing or upgrading session, you may want to go through and just click on these things and make sure, like right here, I would want to make sure I keep a copy of this epic instead of crunching both of those, because I do have two that would fuse into Kira. So, okay, that's the inner workings of what's going on here. Now let's talk about the mythical champion here, which is going to be Lady Mikaj. Now, one thing I don't like is when you click on these champions, it loads up the unascended level 1 version of them, so you're not seeing like the unlocked skills and you're not seeing the full out stats. Like some champions get a bonus to their speed when they get 6-star ascension and all that. You don't see any of that when it's a level 1 champion. So if you are going to go over this champion, I would back out and go into the Shadowkin part of the index manually and then click on the champion right here. That way you see the fully upgraded and ascended version when you're looking over the kit and the stats. So okay, first of all, base stats are looking pretty good. You would expect what these are for a mythical champion, but the 115 base speed is definitely really nice, and we've got a support champion right here on the base version. So we're going to attack one enemy and then team up with a random ally from only the Shadowkin faction, though. I don't really like that qualifier. I love the tandem abilities like Marichka has, but that is a little bit unfortunate. That's only going to be Shadowkin, and then the ally will use their default, obviously. Place a shield equal to 10% of this champion's max HP on the ally with the lowest HP for 2 turns. I actually really like that. You can scale up, you can build Lady here with high HP, get her up to like 80, 90k, and you're propping like an 8k plus shield where it's needed the most, and that can be really handy if you have a champion that only has 30, 40,000 hit points as like a DPSer. Well, now you just bumped it up significantly here constantly with the A1 here popping off those shields. Then we have an AoE that is a default 3-turn cooldown, which is nice. And then I love that book where we've got ignore resistance. That's pretty interesting. But we're going to decrease the duration of all enemy buffs and all ally debuffs by 1 turn. That is completely insane. Then we're going to increase the duration of all enemy debuffs and all ally buffs by 1 turn. So this is like 4 different ways of buff and debuff manipulation. We're going to decrease duration of the enemy buffs, and we're going to be increasing duration of positive things for our team on a 3-turn cooldown default with no books. Absolutely love that, but you are going to need accuracy in order to get the effect of the things that you're doing to your opponents, but we get a baked in resistance if you're able to spend these super expensive tomes to bring this into the 2 levels of upgrades that it has to offer. Then we have an A3 here that defaults to a 5-turn cooldown, which is going to be a little bit unfortunate, but we're going to be placing increased attack and increased crit damage on all allies for 2 turns, and then teaming up with them to attack a single enemy. So going to be a little bit similar to Cardio, because he has an ability where he is also going to be placing the crit damage and then teaming up with allies to attack something. So we've kind of got an ability like that here, but we're getting it in the Mythical Champion version right here. Now it does default to that 5 turns. You can book it with 1 book to get it to 4, and it is going to be a pretty hard hitting thing because you're going to buff attack and crit damage, and then you're going to team up with all allies to nuke a single enemy. So you could even use this for something like a blender composition. You bring those people with the decent hitting A1s that are AoE, and you can completely nuke down waves or an enemy team and all that stuff. Obviously, we get the Metamorph ability right here, and then we also get a passive at the start of the champion's turn. Remove all debuffs from the ally with the highest attack. I love passive value that is either affecting buffs or turn meter or things like that. So really love this passive right here to get the constant cleansing going off of your hardest nuker. So a really fun kit, and this A2 is one of the craziest abilities in the game, especially for a default 3-turn cooldown. But obviously with a Mythical Champion, we can flip on over to the other version right here. And look at this. We've got place a sleep for 1 turn, and then also decrease turn meter by 15% here on the A1. Then we're going to be doing an AoE that is a guaranteed 100% chance to stun as long as you've got the accuracy. And then a book is also going to help us ignore resistance. And then we're also going to decrease a turn meter by 30% on an AoE. So we get damage, CC, turn meter reduction, default 3-turn cooldown, booked up, ignore resistance, and awesome. One of the best CC abilities in the game. Then the A3 is going to be increasing accuracy on all allies by 2 turns, and then removing all buffs from all enemies, and going to be placing a weaken on them, which is more rare than the defense break. So again, a ridiculous ability right here that we can book up to a 4-turn cooldown. And then again, you get the Metamorph, and then we get a passive at the end of this champion's turn. Decrease the turn meter of the enemy with the highest attack by 15%. So you get a little bit of both sides of that. In this form, you're going to be decreasing the turn meter of their highest attack. But then in our other form here, we have the passive that is going to remove all debuffs from our ally with the highest attack. So yeah, all in all, I think this is a pretty good thing by Plarium. I like the champion. I like the design. The permanent fusion is going to be a good thing that players can kind of do at their own pace. It's not going to be one of those like 17-a-day events where you got to rush in, pull a bunch of shards, do a bunch of craziness. You can realistically acquire this champion over the course of your playtime in Raid by using nothing except rares and then some non-void epics down here. You don't have to summon a void epic. You can do it with kind of your rares, non-void epics, fuse up, take your time, work towards it, and then everybody can hopefully, ideally, get a Mythical Champion onto their account realistically. Now, the thing is that usually one champion always kind of eludes you. There'll be like that random rare that you just can't summon. You've pulled thousands of ancient shards or whatever, and out of the hundreds and hundreds of champions, there's always that one or two that you just cannot get on your account. So it is probably going to be a slog, but definitely keep an eye out for these champions, and we'll probably host a poll over on the community tab and ask your opinions on the fusion event right here, on if you think it's a good thing and a bad thing and about the champion and all of that, because I enjoy hearing your input as well. So I appreciate all of you. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace.